And there you are.
Hello, everyone. It is Thursday, so that means it's time for family meeting. Let's let some people jump. Oh, we got 16 people already on. I guess we'll just jump on into it then, huh? Look at y'all.
Tell us
How's it
hi.
going? Yes. Let us see you. Hello from Montana. Girl on foot. Hello, hello, hello. Where y'all at? Y'all, we here, Southern California, just outside of LA.
It's very sunny out.
It is very sunny out, and we are Bend, Oregon. Hey, we were just there.
Yeah, I think we met her.
Yeah. Um,
Shell. I remember her.
we are busy. I feel like this is the story of our lives. I feel like a meme. Like every time people ask me like how you doing, I feel like I should just be like busy. Like that's what you tell people like for the rest of your life. Or like, as soon as I get past this, things will calm down. And you just say that over and over again, like for the rest of your life, because things never really truly calm down. But
Allison and her family are in DC.
oh yay. Hello.
Hey, Candy.
Hey Candy. My Canadian cousin. Well, my cousin from Canada who's in Canada. Um yeah, I think it's just busy, but it's so good. Like a couple of days ago I was reflecting on being busy, and because I've gotten feedback. I get feedback from you all the time, and I got feedback from like my mom and I think Abby, and it wasn't even feedback. Like I don't think they realized they were giving me feedback, but they were like, well, I don't want to bother you because I know you're busy. And I was like, wow, like I didn't have to tell them I was busy or anything like that. It was just like, well, I don't want to disturb you because I know you're always busy. And I was like, wow, like I don't want to be known as the busy person. Um, and busyness does get to be a bit of a headache at times, if I'm just honest. But at the same time, like I have so much to be grateful for. Like I'm grateful for the busy. I am thankful have um to have something to do. I'm grateful for employment. I'm grateful to have work. But then the work that I get to do, or the work that we get to do, I think is vitally important, and it's fun and it's exciting. I love how God chooses to use us in this moment. And that's something that should never be taken lightly. But it's also not something to complain about, you know? And I also have to remember that God doesn't, I don't think anyway, I don't think he wants our life to be so unbalanced that it's just like I'm busy. I'm constantly busy. So trying to navigate the reality of a very real schedule. And also just the reality of any downtime. I need to connect with people and things like that. So that's kind of how I'm at and where I'm doing. What you doing? How you at? That don't make no sense. How you doing and where you at?
I'm okay. Just doing my thing. Just working and living, enjoying life. Every day I wake up, it's a good day.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
Okay, so I put out on Facebook, goodness gracious. I put out on Facebook a couple of days ago. Let me see if I can actually read it.
Here, I'll find it and put it on the screen if I can. Stop
It
watching
was,
yourself.
well, it was about
Mm.
that's not me. Here, let me just find it right here. It was about Disney.
It is you. It's
What?
you. Right here.
Okay. Let's see. So
Right.
it says currently mulling over in my brain. I don't see it anymore.
Well, I gotta pull it up.
Okay.
Just be patient.
Sorry, friends.
This is the patience.
I'm feisty today. I'm
I
telling
know.
you. I
It's
am.
like
I'm kind of feisty.
all day.
Not
right.
all day. She's exaggerating.
All right, here we go.
Children, education, and Disney. So this was on April 20th, so maybe almost a week or so. I haven't come to any final conclusions, just sharing some thoughts. I've heard many parents complain about the educational state of schools, yet many of these same parents will allow their children to watch Disney programs, take their kids to Disneyland, and support Disney-owned companies' movies. In my opinion, this is a troubling consistency. Some schools, educators have taken measures to teach in accordance with the critical social theories, but Disney has too. For Disney, we should also add witchcraft to the list. Some contend that while the issues surrounding education are deplorable, the issues are quote unquote a matter of choice. I don't agree with that personally, but that's just me. However, if it's a matter of conscience, or I think I said matter of conscience, yeah, not a choice, a matter of conscience. However, if it is a matter of conscience, shouldn't we ask if our support of Disney is glorifying to God and or in line with the words of Scripture, or if our participation with Disney presents inconsistencies? If Christians are opposed to the queer theory presented in the materials taught in a fourth grade math book to the point of removing children from school, how do we justify taking our kids to watch a Marvel Disney-owned movie or continue to support Disney preschool programming? Remember the Disney preschool programming, or the I think it was Blue's Clues, the queer parade?
That's not a Disney.
That's not Disney.
That's not
but
Disney
okay.
property.
All right. But I was thinking there was something that Disney did for like littles.
Yeah, there was some animations that Letitia had sent me, or maybe it was Amanda, our web volunteer. I was on Disney Junior. They were like some little songs. Yeah.
So are the social theories in education a clearly biblical issue, yet the social theories through Disney a matter of conscience? Y'all, why did people have to lose their minds?
You had a lot of traction.
I had a lot of traction. I don't think people like lost their minds on the public feed, but I did get some people who sent me some messages on the inbox. They hit me up in my DMs. I was like, wow, I don't know that I think I was pretty surprised, I guess. I thought maybe more people would be like, yeah, I've been wrestling with this too. Maybe the Lord is only kind of wrestling with my heart on it. But it was like, I think there were people who were like, yes, we need to like leave Disney alone. And this is not simply a Disney issue. I think it's a question overall of how are we participating in a culture that is antithetical to our faith and clearly pushing their influence of all of these theories, social theories, onto children, that they're clear in their agenda. As Christians, I think we should be clear in ours, but I think for us, it gets a little murky, especially when it comes to entertainment. Who's going to entertain my child? Do I have to entertain my kids? And so I think there's three buckets that people kind of fit in. One, we should clearly draw a line in the sand and be like, no, I'm not going to participate with this. The other group is like, well, we can redeem some of these things and use what the devil meant for evil and actually turn it for good, and I can teach my kids lessons.
Like I watch it with my kid and then we have a conversation.
Yes.
That's what you mean by redeeming it.
Yes.
Okay.
And then the third group just really doesn't see much of an issue with it at all. And so this, and so this is I'm not saying that there's not more groups out there. I think these are the groups, the three buckets that I encountered in this conversation. And I was highly bewildered because people really are passionate. And I guess for me, I'm still very much in a questioning conversation. I think I can come across as extremely like confident and like, bam, this is where I am. But I do think that I am questioning some of my own participation with certain things. For me, it might not be a Disney conversation, but it could be music, or it could be something else. Just how do we as Christians live in a culture that is distinctly antithetical to, and it not even just antithetical, but often aggressive isn't the word, but hostile, thank you, hostile toward our faith. And how do we raise our kids to understand that they will not be like the culture? Or do we raise them to think that it's okay, you can hang out in the culture? It's okay for you to go to church on Sunday and then, hang out in the club or hang out in the culture or hang out with whatever that thing is during the week. And I know kids aren't clubbing and stuff like that, but I feel like there's a bit of a line. So when I tell my kid, hey, on Sundays we go to church, but right after church, it's okay that we go and watch the fornication in the Disney movie. What precedent am I setting up for my kids? I don't know. This is what I'm wrestling with as far as like, how do we lead young people? I feel like youth conferences recently, there's a lot of questions.
And young people are very good at catching parental inconsistencies.
Yes.
Well, I think part of your issue is, if I understand it right, is we see a lot of energy on social media and, people having hard conversations with school administrators and politicians and, people that are policymakers. So a lot of energy that parents are putting toward weeding out the critical social theories in schools. But then, is it hypocrisy to take your kid to see the critical social theories on display in their entertainment? And what is the long-term effect of normalizing that behavior and having them see it displayed up there?
It's go ahead.
It's
Sorry.
that it doesn't seem like there's the same amount of energy on both sides. And for you, this is something people might not know about you, but you want consistency at all costs.
Oh yeah. Yes.
So
I do like
this
consistency.
this question doesn't keep me awake at night, but maybe it should. I think it's worth talking about. But for Monique, anytime she sees any level of inconsistency, she's got to comment about it. Da, 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 da.
Yeah, that's true. I'm not gonna lie. but I feel like, there are some parents who will say, well, you know what, I watched this movie with my kid, and then we talk about the places where it's inconsistent with our Christian worldview. But I also wonder, is that, and this isn't a judgment or anything like that, I'm just wondering, is that the excuse that we use so that we can sit down to watch the movie?
Is it more about the parents wanting to enjoy it and then
Or not hear their kids fuss, or da 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 da?
wanting like the electronic babysitter, getting their kids to
Yeah, I'm
calm
like,
down?
oh yeah. So yeah, because some people said, well, I don't want to just get rid of Disney. I feel like there's some redeeming values when I sit down with my kid and we talk about it. And yes, I can see that. But I'm like, do you then make sure that, well, now we have to go see every movie so that I can show you the inconsistencies? I don't know that I buy that. I don't know.
I used to hold really strongly to the paradigm of like, it's okay to watch a movie and then you just talk about it with your kid. I'm not sure I believe that anymore. I think I've kind of changed my mind about that. Like, if it was happening just every once in a while and it was kind of a rare occasion, and you told the kid, and they were like a teenager and they were able to sort of process it, I could maybe see it. But now it's like bombarding them everywhere. And I'm not sure that parents can do enough to counteract all of that by letting their kids watch it and then just have a conversation about it afterwards. I I think I've changed my mind about that. I'm not sure that that's going to be an effective strategy in the long run, because after a while the kid's going to think like, man, it's just you have an objection to everything. I don't know.
Potentially, I feel like you're putting your kid at a place of, and again, I'm not a parent, so this is just my own thoughts. I'm not even sure like that I would die for this. This is just kind of what I'm wrestling with. This idea that, I'm going to sit down and put before you, the competing ideas. But we have to also understand that when your competing ideas look like a plain plate of Lay's potato chips, and this idea over here looks like cake and ice cream and candy and pizza and all their favorite foods. So you talked about the competing idea. And you told them this is the one that we should really go for. But this one over here don't look too attractive. Like, I think there's, I don't know. I could be wrong though. I'm open to being wrong. I'm just also inviting you to share in that.
So here's one comment. If you as a parent are strong enough in your faith and apologetics to have conversations with your kid with every bit of entertainment. You should. If you aren't, don't allow it. Yeah, I used to believe that. That's exactly what I used to believe. I don't think I believe that anymore after actually raising my children. I think that I've changed my mind. Even though I had a job as a Christian movie reviewer, I could sit down and analyze a movie, its worldview. I can explain it to students. I can use a movie to explain worldviews to students. And I think that could have its place in a classroom environment, where you're having them watch a clip and then doing some worldview analysis. I would be open to that. But when it's a constant stream of entertainment, and that thing is being piped into your house all the time, I just don't think there's any way to comment about every single show that your kid's watching, because they watch a lot of things that you don't even know about. They watch things, when you're busy in the other room. And I think that I just don't think it's realistic. And I think I've changed my mind about this, So that now, if you want to watch it in a classroom situation, have a worldview conversation, and you have a setup with the kid of, hey, we're going to watch the scene and then we're going to talk about it. I think that could be a little bit of a different situation.
Somebody put on, and I think his name is John. I don't remember his last name. Maybe John Mark. He put on the stream, he asked the question, who says that we even need to be entertained?
Well, this has been my question. I mean, just go back 30 years to Neil Postman and his book, Amusing Ourselves to Death, which totally changed my whole view of entertainment. When I read that book when I was in college, it radically changed my thinking about this. And I have serious concerns about the assumption that we need entertainment. I think that is to some degree, a lie that we've bought into.
And I'm a big entertainment person. It's like, I'm not necessarily.
I was a film major in college.
So yes, but like, I love the theater. I love to go to theater. I love to go to the ballet. I love to go and, watch productions. I feel like entertainment is a huge part of my enjoyment. I think you would say the same, making movies and doing things like that. But then
I've made my living.
Yeah.
In the entertainment field to some degree.
But then I had to consider, what did the early church think about entertainment, or the idea of entertainment? Now, I think that in doing some reading on entertainment, there was a period in the early church where entertainment was seen as something that was very pagan. So consider in the earliest parts of the early church, post Jesus, so like, after Christ's death and resurrection, but you get Nero, who for entertainment burned Christians. Entertainment in like the Colosseum and things like that, that was seen as very pagan. I think even in the like early 100s and 200s, Christianity was seen as being a religion and a worldview that was removed from the culture so much that people did not participate in the pagan society at large.
Well, and that even wasn't just about entertainment. That was also about work.
That's what I'm saying, at large.
Yeah, Christians didn't want to participate in the work guilds, and which were kind of like first century trade unions, because to be in these guilds, you had to be willing to offer a sacrifice to the Caesar and participate in that, and or whatever demon god that trade union was affiliated with. And so that would make earning a living very challenging for early Christians, because they avoided the trade guilds. So this is not just a matter of they withdrew from the broader culture just with entertainment. They had to withdraw from other types of societies, social groups, trade unions, And so they really became like their own subculture, counterculture.
Yeah, and I think, at least in the reading that I was doing, that this was the way that it was up until about the early to mid 300s,
Mhm.
when you get like the Council of Nicaea. But pre-Nicaea, or in pre the Nicene Council, Christianity was seen as being extremely distinct. You have the popularization of Christianity, with rulers who were accepting of Christianity, or rulers who, maybe Christianity halted a bit, or didn't grow as fast if your ruler wasn't as, into Christianity or whatever. But I think around the mid 300s, early to mid 300s, you see this popularizing of Christianity, which allowed then for different thoughts to also come in. So
Well,
the
it was the
idea of
salvation of Constantine, and then Christianity was then legalized and it became more mainstream.
But with that mainstream thought, or it becoming more mainstream, also allowed in for different people to think different things. So I'm going to think that going to sport is okay, going to entertainment is okay. But these people over here don't think that it's going to be okay. You have many different thoughts now coming in. But before that, it was very distinct. I want to read a couple things, like from Tertullian, and from gosh, there's another guy in here. What is it? There actually was a book of kind of like a book of Christian thought, and I'm losing the name of it. Hopefully I'll find it now.
So you're going to read quotes
from early Christians, 100 and 200 Christians. The year one, like in the year 100, or the year 200.
Right. And I have the book on the screen. It's called The Dictionary of Early Christian Beliefs, and it's like a compendium organized according to topic of quotes from early Christians. Okay, go.
A man has no shame if he exorcises demons in the church, but then praises their delight in the public shows. This is from 235, and it's a guy named Novadian. And I learned about him in school, but I never remembered how to pronounce his name. Tertullian said, "Will there be peace in his soul when there is eager strife, therefore a charioteer?" So they stayed away from the chariot races and things like that. It was seen as violent, and just things that Christians weren't supposed to do. But this was also their form of entertainment at that time. Where is the other one? Okay. A father who carefully protects and guards his virgin daughter's ears from every polluting word takes her to the theater himself, exposing her to all its vile words and attitudes.
That's pretty convicting.
It is. Like this, I just realized that the early church had some very definitive thoughts about entertainment, and it was convicting for me. There was one in here that says, let's see. A Christian who is faithful should neither repeat a pagan hymn nor sing an obscene song. Now, I don't be out there with all the obscenities, but I was like, ooh, there are some music choices that I'm like, oh, this is also something, that checks my heart. Another one from maybe Tertullian says, as often happens, a Christian hurries to the public spectacle when dismissed from the Lord's assembly, still bearing inside him the Eucharist. Like, they had strong thoughts and words about this. Such an unfaithful man has carried about the holy body of Christ among the filthy bodies of harlots. What I'm not trying to do is be like, you're going to hell for watching that movie. No, I'm not trying to make that kind of pronouncements. But I do want us to consider what we do, and especially how do we do it in front of our kids? How are we raising the next generation of young people to consider their faith seriously, and to realize that they are going to be a religion and a faith, a worldview that is not in step with the culture. They're not in step with the culture for a reason. It's not about well, we don't want you to see that, or whatever kind of, excuse we can give, but it's because we want to keep in line and in step with the Holy Spirit. We want to honor God with what we do. And so, yeah, I don't know. What were you going to say?
Well, I think to go back to your original point about, why don't we parents have the same energy? I want to bring us back to that original point, because I think it's a point that we too quickly dismiss. We're very busy fighting a public battle right now, uh, um, related to the critical social theories in the public square, but we're really not that energized to have the same energy to always protect our children from the same ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think there's a level in which many of us as parents like something, and so we want to bring our kids into the fun of sharing that adventure with them. There's something that's very fun about sharing something in common with your kid that's fun. And it's very tempting to see it through your eyes as an adult, like, well, I can sift through all of the lies and I can sift through these things. But I'm not as optimistic anymore that if there's a constant barrage of these even subtle messages of, queer theory and that sort of thing coming before the child, um, that there's enough conversation to counteract that. Because on some level, that's going to send them a message, about normalization. What could be possible if there was more protection? And, what we did when our kids were teenagers is we just almost stopped watching TV altogether, started watching like DVDs, shows from the 70s and 80s, and finding other ways for us to engage as a family as a whole, to find a show that we all enjoyed together. And there's some shows we've stopped watching that we used to really all enjoy as a family, but we don't watch them anymore. So,
okay. Okay, so I'm going to look at Angelica's question, and then I'm going to say something that will probably irritate everybody on the stream, and that's okay. We'll take it one step at a time. Y'all can tell me I'm wrong, and I'll handle it. But Angelica says, what do other Christians in other countries do for entertainment? When I lived abroad and was traveling abroad, you know what they did? They sent their kids outside to play. It was very little TV in the Christian homes. It was very little secular music. My friends put their kids outside to play, or they would go outside and play with them. It was a lot of walks, a lot of talks, a lot of sitting around the table. Now, that is also just culturally different to, I think, what we do here in the States. But, being in South Africa, the kids are not in the house. The TV is not on. If it is on, it's a DVD that everybody is sitting around together. It's a lot of Christian DVDs. So I remember, because especially in South Africa, they still have like the South African version of Blockbuster.
There's one left in Bend, Oregon.
There it is. And so they would go all together and pick out DVDs from the Christian section and then sit down and watch that. So it's different. Now, here is my controversial thought that I am sure will irritate many people. And that's okay. I'm open. I'm here for it. Y'all can correct me and let me know if I'm wrong. I'm open to that. Recently, with conversation, and I don't even think it's just recently, one of my irritations, especially when I was in critical race theory, my huge irritation for me was a conversation of Christians and abortion, and how strongly Christians would come against abortion, but they would stand for many other things. And this is the way that I saw it from my critical race theory lens. So I'm not saying that I still see it like that. But one of the things when I was thinking about the conversation of entertainment and what kids are being approached with is I think, and you can weigh in and you can tell me what you think. What I find is that there are tons of adult Christians who stand strongly, vehemently against abortion. And I say yes and amen. I have now come over to that position and I stand against abortion as well. It is an issue of morality. It is an issue of spirituality. I think it's demonic. Like there's all of those things. And so are the things that I'm presenting. I'm not trying to put that on you. The things that I am presenting, I also think are an issue of morality. I also think are demonic and satanic and wanting to lead our kids into, very troubling ideologies. What my fear or thought is, I guess it's a little bit of both, is that as Christians, we can, put morality on a hierarchy, or like what is bad on a hierarchy, where abortion is the worst of the worst. And so we need to yell and scream and really knock that down. And I'm not opposed to knocking down the structure of abortion. I think we should. It impacts Black people way more than anybody else. Yes, we need to knock that down. But why are we not also as impassioned and upset about what is coming at our kids and at our faith as much as we are this right here? It seems like we've put one, if we say like, the Lord hates sin, well, he hates this sin the most. Well, I think there's different consequences. But when I think about how we are placing issues, I feel like we place one way up here and the other ones, well, we just, it'll sort itself out. Am I wrong?
No, I think you're raising a thoughtful point. I think that it concerns me, and it concerns me that Christians seem okay with watching fornication and calling it entertainment.
Yeah. Oh,
And
I'll tell my story when you're done. Go ahead.
okay, that concerns me, and it concerns me that they're not terribly bothered. Like, let's just take the kids out of the equation for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
That we can tell ourselves a story about why it's okay to watch fornication on the screen and we call it entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
That's troubling to me. Now, as a young person, I told myself those stories.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sitting here saying that, I've always held this point of view, but it's disturbing to me, like the quotes that you read from the dictionary there, from the early church, the early Christians, that, we condemn the acts of demons, we cast them out in our churches, but then we go to theaters and we watch things that demons celebrate, and we're kind of okay with that.
Well, we're participating in the celebration, especially if you've given them your money. My personal opinion, once again.
Yeah. So what were you going to say?
I was going to say, you were saying that we're okay with watching lustful acts on, or fornicating on the screen. And I was just on a flight, and when I looked up, there was full on sex happening on a screen in front. And I forgot, I was going to write into the airline. Full on sex. It was that movie House of Gucci or something like that. It's something with the Gucci line.
Yeah.
And when I looked up, I was like, oh my gosh. And I ended up seeing it on 3 different screens. I saw it on 2 screens going there, and then on another screen from the woman who was sitting right next to me on the flight back. And I was just like, why? Now, recently, me and Elisa had a conversation about sex on TV, and you guys held a very different position than I did. I was just like, well, I think I made the same excuses. And one of the things that I realized is that, one, sex is a very intimate act that shouldn't be shared. But like, we just don't go as Christians and watch sexual acts. We don't just go on. I mean, because
So
I
are
don't.
you saying you agree with Elisa and I now?
Yes, that is what I'm
You
saying.
changed your mind?
The,
I gotta call Lisa.
the Lord don't like ugly. Please
I'm
stop.
texting her now.
I know you are, but you know it's
Because you thought we were cuckoo.
for Cocoa Puffs. Yes, I did. But I was like, I wonder how many kids are around. What
Yeah.
what if there's a child watching this and wondering what's going on?
Well, we used to, when I was a kid, we used to call that porn. And now we've shifted the Overton window, and now you have Christians making up little stories about why it's okay.
Yeah, and what's so bad is that the woman sitting next to me was a Christian watching this sex movie because
I was going to make a joke. Did she have a cross around her neck?
no,
But
I was
refraining.
wearing my
no.
I was wearing a Christian shirt from SES, and it said, "The tomb is empty, your mind shouldn't be." And she was like, "Oh my gosh, like I love your shirt." Well, like there was a little dialogue about the tomb is empty and your mind shouldn't be and all that. And then here she is with I was like, well, that's awkward.
Well, there's a good comment here about holiness. Are we set apart and living set apart or not? And I think that, there's such a great question, because I think that in American Christianity in particular, we are very into, I can do what I want.
Mhm.
And it's what happens when we transport that ideal of American individualism into, translating that into our faith, and I can do what I want as an individual.
Mhm.
And it's like, I know that American Christians in particular have strong feelings about, well, I can watch this. I'm unaffected. It's just music, or it's just a movie. But what does that message teach our children, even by them just watching us have that attitude about things?
Yes. Yeah,
So,
and I guess part of another, what I was also hoping to cause in this conversation is for us, especially by reading from the Dictionary of Early Christian Beliefs, is understanding that there was a time in the Christian faith where these things were not okay. Yes, we are centuries away from, that way of thinking today, but I have to ask myself, why? Why did people think this way? What was it about the people who were closest to Christ, who lived so close to Christ, that they thought that this way of living was pagan? It was pagan to go to the shows and see people harm themselves and in brutal fight. It was pagan to go watch illicit sex. It was pagan. Like, these are pagan things. Entertainment, things that were considered entertainment of the day, was considered something that a Christian should flee from because it was part of the culture. What has happened since that time?
That we have a Christian culture, though, now that co-signs on this.
Yes, our Christian culture says, no, go ahead. It's just sex. No, go ahead. It's okay. You can
It's
then
just
have
a movie.
It's just a movie. It's just a little bit of I mean, it's not even real witchcraft. I mean, Turning Red, I mean, that's just a little, and Turning Red and Encanto, those two movies. Oh, goodness gracious. I got a lot to say about that for another day. But at what point do we realize that those who we consider the fathers of the faith did not do certain things, and yet we live as if those things have always been and are definitely okay? And when I say we, I definitely mean me too. I am not just sitting here to point fingers. This is a question that I also have to ask myself. I'm just having a public conversation as I'm asking myself.
Oh, so good. Jennifer says, this is what I love. This right here, real authentic conversations that challenge fellow believers toward continued sanctification. I feel personally challenged. Thank you. Listen, Jennifer, don't listen for a second here. Living with Miss Inconsistency here has been a challenge, because every little thing she commenting on every little tiny minuscule inconsistency. And then I gotta, like, okay, you raise a good point. Let me think about this. You do.
I do, because I just think that inconsistencies, especially when seen around children, are destructive. I've seen it. I've seen kids who live in a constant conflict, or they believe that their parents' faith is of nothing.
And here's the thing is that our kids see what we do, not what we say. So we can have all the worldview conversations about a movie in the world, but if we're just going out and consuming that content, they see at the end of the day there's really nothing wrong with that. And then we're worried, when we've got 70 to 80% deconversion and attrition rates.
Well, and then you as the parent are seen as being a hypocritical.
Yeah. And the kid sees it.
Yeah.
The kid sees the hypocrisy. They may not always comment on it, but you're still teaching them something by engaging in the content yourself.
Yes.
And so it's
but I mean,
yeah, it's difficult.
These things they hit home for me too. I don't have kids, but when I read in that thing that in this book that you should not be listening to certain pagan music, I wanted to throw the whole book away. Because I love me some Lauryn Hill, Kelly Clarkson. Oh, I can get that little Kelly Clarkson songs. I love me some Kelly. And yet what she's singing about does not bring glory to God. And
I'm getting some good comments here. Yeah, I want to make a little comment though on a side issue that you only briefly brought up. I want to also make a comment about more than just the content. And this is something that I have not really talked about on my channel, but it's something very important to me. And I might do a stream on it soon, of like an hour long of my opinion about media. But here's the short version of it, is that I don't think many parents these days understand how watching screens changes a child's brain.
Yes.
And when we train a child's brain to interact with screens as their primary way of getting information, that child is not being set up to be able to read scripture and understand deeply complicated and abstract thoughts. So if we're wondering why we're having such high attrition rates in our faith, I don't feel like anybody's talking about this, but my theory, my opinion, this is not a word from the Lord, this is an opinion. But I think that there is a deep connection between how we have trained our children's brains to always need entertainment, to need noise in the background, to need some kind of music, movies, TV all the time to keep their brains going. They don't know how to sit in the quiet, and they don't know how to apprehend the written word, to read well, and to think about abstract thoughts. It is very difficult. And Jesus reveals himself as the Logos of God. It is, that's where we get the word logic. If we are, I think that God has created us, if we're going to talk about creative design, I think God has created children to use their imaginations and play outside. That's how they function best. I think that when we interacting with screens does not use the part of the brain that requires a lot of imagination. Mm-hmm. And I think that we're doing things to our children that are not normal. They're not in the realm of how God has created our brains to work and develop. And so, and it can form an addictive pattern of repetition in a child's brain. And I have deep concerns when I go out to eat and I see children on screens instead of just sitting there having a conversation with their parents, mm-hmm. sitting in the supermarket on screens, sitting in church on screens,
sitting in a stroller, to keep them from, crying their heads off.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to hit Candy's comment.
Okay. I'll follow
right there. Okay.
This one?
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about this right now.
That's okay. I will. You don't have to.
All right. I guess we're not getting to my topic.
We are. We'll probably just go over a little bit. Just stay with us. She said, did I miss something about Encanto? You see what I got to deal with? If somebody could please pray for me. I thought it was one of the better and less woke movies I've seen in a while from Disney. I would agree it was less woke. What I did not like was the spiritual workings behind it and the idea of giftings. And I don't want to get into it too deep, but I think that this is also in Turning Red. I saw these two movies because I wanted to have this conversation that I think we're actually going to do a whole podcast on, which I feel like goes into even the conversation that we're having right now. Like, was that even correct? Like to watch those two movies for the purpose of having a bigger conversation. See, I told you I'm in a struggle too, y'all, but I saw them. And I think that these two movies in particular have a conversation about gifts and the originator of gifts and where we get our gifts from, gifts that are outside of human ability. And that the tie to those gifts is some kind of mystical, there's a mystical tie-in. There's a tie-in to gifts that is outside of the gift giver, outside of God, and what those gifts are. And so, yeah, I had some issues with the situation. I did. Okay, now, Christy, I didn't take up all the time, but we're gonna go.
I got 11 minutes.
We're gonna talk until we're done. So hang on if you can, and if not, come back and watch it. But keep going.
Well, that leads me to a really cool announcement for everybody. And that is that we finally have the family meeting available as an audio podcast. So if you can't tune in live, or you don't like watching a video, you can go get it through Apple Podcasts. I had Bob upload like the latest 5 or 6 episodes. Mm-hmm. And so those are there, and you'll be able to access it as an audio podcast. So if you're out jogging or whatever you are doing, you'll be able to catch up on the family meetings that way. So thanks to Bob for helping me get all that set up. Best news ever. If that's the best news ever, you gotta really
that is the best news ever. Yes. Okay, well now what was you want to talk about?
All right. So Roe v. Wade.
Ooh, sucking now. Here we go. Go ahead.
It might get overturned. I have my own conspiracy theories about what's happening there, but I won't go into that.
Oh, y'all, she got a theory for everything.
I got a theory for everything. But I do find it kind of interesting. I'm on Twitter. I've mentioned this before. I have an anonymous account on Twitter, but stop it. So I've been thinking about the fact that there's not a lot of conversation happening yet about the Roe v. Wade situation. Like there's people like us and Allie Beth Stuckey and Sam Say, and we're all kind of in a similar space that have been speaking up about
it. You need some water?
I don't know. It's like every time I'm
keep going,
just
talk amongst
getting
yourselves.
On here and having some kind of, I don't know, demonic choking attack or something. But I think it's interesting that there's really not that much out there with people saying, hey, here's an opportunity to really rally some support for pro-life conversations. Mm-hmm. There's a, when BLM was happening and the riots were happening, Gospel Coalition was pretty quick with those articles.
Oh, girl. Ain't nobody ready for that. Keep going.
Monique is just now finding out about Krista's anonymous Twitter. No,
I know. I was about to air her anonymous Twitter handle,
not.
But I do have to go home and live 10 feet from this woman. So I have to sleep in a different room.
Now, I don't know if anything's come out today yet, but I just find the silence by some of the big names I thought would come forward a little deafening. And it, you
didn't see nothing from Tim Keller? Crickets. But go ahead.
But he did tweet like last week, that he was skeptical that the strategy of putting people on the Supreme Court was really ever going to overturn Roe v. Wade. And he was saying there's many ways to get to reduce abortions. And, he's a big social programs welfare guy.
Which,
so,
yeah.
But that kind of led me to seeing this tweet by Justin Giboney, who is the founder of the AND campaign. He's an attorney. And, the AND campaign, it purports to be like this neutral third way. We're not Republicans, we're not Democrats, we're Christians, we're a third way. And so you're going into it thinking like, that he's a neutral party. But, Democrats went, here's a tweet that he did. Democrats went from safe, legal, and rare to enacting some of the most extreme abortion laws in the world. They've been reckless. I agree with that. I agree with that part of it. However, if the conservative position is actually rooted in compassion, they'll act on health care, paid family leave, and child care post-Roe. So what Justin Giboney is wanting to invite us into is a position of, well, yeah, we can overturn Roe v. Wade, but we also need to enact more social programs. And I'm wondering, can I be pro-life but still not want to advocate for more social programs?
It's like, it doesn't have to be an either or. Like, we don't have to live in such polarized mentalities. Like, but this is it's some kind of fallacy. I'm sure you can tell me that we live in of like either or. Either we have abortion on demand or we have social programs to care for the kids that you're making us have. No. Or we talk about morality and not sleeping around. Like,
well,
I mean, we can, there are many ors that we can do.
Yeah.
Or you get a job that has healthcare benefits.
Yeah. And I think
work is a thing.
I think that and I thought John Cooper just said this so well as he tweeted out Justin Giboney's tweet. But he says, translation, abortion is necessary until Christians embrace wealth distribution and government paternalism. Mm-hmm. I don't mind that the AND campaign is political. I mind that they pretend to be apolitical.
Yes.
And I thought that's the whole thing in a nutshell with Giboney, because people write to us sometimes about what our take is on him. And I think some of what he says is helpful, but really he's a big social programs guy.
Yeah.
He's for wealth redistribution, bigger government. And I'm saying, let's save children from abortion and let's save children from socialism.
Yes.
I don't have to embrace whole life care socialism in order to be pro-life. The people wanting to kill the babies don't get to define what it means to be pro-life.
Well, I think that you can be whole life, a person who cares for the whole life of an individual, and not be up for social programs. I think that's what the Christians...
It's the false dilemma. Someone's helping us out here. It's the false dilemma.
Yes. It's like, as Christians, shouldn't we care for the whole person? Like when people, was it during the plagues, when people were dying and being left in the street and Christians went to go bury them? Like, we can care for the whole person from the womb all the way through. And I know this womb to tomb, kind of language can set some people off, but hear me out. I'm not doing this from a socialist mentality or anything like that. I'm just saying that as Christians, when we care for the human person, I can care for the preborn human person, and I can care for every piece or impact, something that would impact that human person as they go, including their death. The way we do that, though, must be from a clearly biblical standpoint. Our care for the human person must be in accordance with God's design for the human person. So when I say we can care for the human person, from womb to tomb, how do we create a way for people to work? I'm not talking about socialism or socialist programming, but work. A call to work is part of the creation mandate.
Well, and there's no conversation hardly happening about fornication.
Two-parent families.
Yeah, I saw a TikTok thing today where the person was like, well, if Roe v. Wade gets overturned, what's going to happen to hookup culture? It's going to be destroyed. And I'm like, if these are your terms and conditions, I accept.
Yes. But it's like, how do we teach people that there is a better way? I mean, gosh, there's I think Neil might have talked about it. Like these steps that even if you're not a Christian, if you do them, like if you wait to have kids, Thaddeus, okay.
Yeah.
If you wait to have kids until you are out of college and married.
No. You're getting it all wrong.
Okay, thank you.
So it's three things.
Help me.
Graduate from high school,
Uh-huh.
get a job, any job, and wait to have children until after you're married.
Thank you. What she said.
If you do those three things, your chance of poverty goes down to like 2%.
Yeah.
It's a very small number. And ministries that advocate for things like family, real community transformation, get married, don't abort your children, disciple your children, and advocate for personal responsibility, advocate for work. These are things that have the possibility to truly transform communities. But there are public or pregnancy resource centers.
There are
all over there's just this myth that, well, Christians don't do anything. They're just for the unborn. It's like Christians adopt twice as often as anybody else as a group. Christians often run pregnancy resource centers that offer classes and help. There's all kinds of resources for parents, low-income parents. Many churches run resource centers. There are many resources available. This myth that all Christians care about is what happens in the womb it's just not true.
So I have a friend whose mother she started if I'm not mistaken, she actually started a PRC, a pregnancy resource center, and does tons of work, has done for years, tons of work in the space of pregnancy resource centers. And so I text her and I just asked about how many pregnancy resource centers there are compared with Planned Parenthood. Her response to me was, there are approximately 2,500 pregnancy resource centers, which Planned Parenthood paints them all as inadequate and not having real nurses or physicians. About 600 Planned Parenthood centers. So there are about roughly 4 times more pregnancy resource centers than there are Planned Parenthood centers. And most of those pregnancy resource centers are run by Christians. So the idea that Christians don't care about life or care about a pregnant woman or, anything like that is not true. And so, gosh,
and Christian adoption has been part of the Christian tradition since the beginning. We have a long history. I'm sure that Christian adoption would go up even more if there were more babies available.
Well, no, not really at this moment in time. Because,
you don't think so?
Huh?
You don't think so?
There are tons of babies available. Honestly, I personally believe.
But
what?
It's so expensive, though.
That is one. It is so expensive. 2, many of the people who adopt are white. I have not looked at the statistics lately. When I was in school, one of the things that I learned was that minorities, people of color, we tend to do kinship care. So my sister Sally got arrested because she was smoking drugs. They took her kids, they placed them with me. Kinship. Adoption, you going actively out, looking to foster, looking to adopt and things like that. Do I think that some of those numbers have shifted a bit and you might find more people of color looking to adopt? Sure. But by and large, it's a ton of white people who are out there adopting and living from that world view within their home. What we're finding, and I've had many conversations with people recently as we've traveled, people have written into the ministry and things like that, who are white and are saying we've been turned down because we are white. And adoption agencies are clear. We don't think that you would be able to raise a child of color. We don't think you'd be able to raise a Black child because you're white. I mean, and I'm not just saying that this is the person who's come to me, all brokenhearted and telling me their story. No, they are bringing the receipts. They're bringing evidence. One woman came with her phone and said, "Look at what she actually had her kids for a couple years. So she adopted. I saw her a couple months ago. So she had her son for about 3 years. She came with a support group that they make her participate in. That's and with text from this group that said, because you can't see me, here are ways that you can see me today. And it was a picture of a little black boy, and it was encouragement for her in different ways in which you can see the black boy.
Because her son was black.
Because her son was black and she was white. And so just inherently, there's something within the white parent in which they would not be able to see or rear the child of color, love the child of color. Because you do not know how to love me, like this is not made up. So I'm leery to believe that if there were more kids available, that they would be readily just adopted out, not because people would not want to sign up and say, hey, my home is open, but because right now the bureaucracy around adoption, especially for white parents, is that you are not capable. There is something wrong.
No, I could see that, the bureaucracy and the government interference in it. Definitely. So, all right. Well, that's all we have.
Weren't you going to talk about something else?
No, that's it.
Are you sure? No. Go back to the list.
No, that's it.
They're hanging in with us.
I'm done. That was it. I just wanted to encourage everyone, if you want great resources to have conversations about pro-life issues and responding to a lot of these very common objections, these objections you're hearing on your social media and in the news, these are nothing new. They might be new to you, but they're not new. Go check out the ministry of Scott Klusendorf. He's probably the #1 moral ethicist who specializes in pro-life argumentation. Elisa's going to have him on her podcast this Sunday. So go check out Scott Klusendorf's ministry. Also, lots of great arguments from our friends over at Stand to Reason. There's a standard set of, 10 or 12 common arguments that are put forward. So equip yourself. So if you find yourself in a situation where you decide to engage someone, that you'll have some ideas of how to share your perspective and to engage in kind persuasion, respectful persuasion. So, all right, I think that's it.
That is it. All right, we will not be here next Thursday. We'll be flying to Florida for Wilberforce weekend. But we should be back. No, we won't be back the Thursday after that because we'll be flying to
Colorado.
No, I think we leave on Friday.
Okay.
So we should be back the Thursday after that. Sign up for the Center for Biblical Unity's newsletter. You'll get a free resource on racism. If you have not checked out my new podcast with Kevin Briggins, together we co-host a podcast called Off Code. Check that out. We are addressing issues within the Black community. This was started because we were tired of so many things that are happening in the Black community being blamed on whiteness. So we want to address the things that are happening and have real conversations on what can be done to change some of these issues. What are the thoughts, ideas, moral codes that need to shift.
New Off Code drops on Sunday. We're having an interview this Saturday night with our friend Melissa Doherty about how to spot New Age teachings that might be coming into your church.
No, that's next Saturday.
No, it's this. Oh, you're right. It's
next Saturday. Yeah. Next Saturday.
This Saturday is something that we haven't figured out yet. So tune in. We'll see what it is.
We don't know what we're doing yet. We don't know.
All right. Take care. We'll see you.
Bye.